Oh, I know. Go FUD Yourself. We're back. It is Wednesday, episode 16. It's also International Women. Wait, what is it today? Women's Day?
Yeah, today's International Women's Day, and the month of March is International Women's History Month.
When do we get Men's Day?
We're not doing
International Men's Day.
You have it every day.
Yeah, so do women. I mean, I need a.
Why?
Uh-oh, you're cutting out a little bit, but I'm gonna go with we need a straight white North American middle class male day, and maybe a couple of months of history, just to throw out the political incorrectness. Uh-oh. I think I lost Kiara. So here we go. This is exciting. Anyways, so we've got a few different things that we're going to chat about today while we wait for Kiara to reconnect. I'm assuming her internet rubbed her, which happens. Or maybe she didn't like my International Women's Day comments. Who knows? But nonetheless, we'll start off with some interesting stuff from Binance. So I think there's been a whole bunch of news coming out in the last little bit. I see Kiara back in the waiting room. There she is. Oh man, now we're on the wrong side. Anyways, so I was just talking about Binance.
The internet just didn't want me to fucking listen to you.
Rubbed. I was like, oh shit, she's embarrassed about my political incorrectness, but nah, we own it. Anyways, so
actually,
Binance,
my internet just sucks, and Twitch didn't stream. I don't know.
Oh man, is it still not working on Twitch?
Yeah, it's still not working.
Twitch needs to
Binance. What were you saying about Binance? They've got all kinds of stuff.
Anyways, yeah, Binance. They're all over the map. There's some stuff circling around the last few days, and we didn't talk about it on the stream because we thought really doesn't care.
Binance.
Apparently, they tried to hire Gensler back in the day. What does that matter? I don't know. I mean, people are always trying to hire regulators. That's just kind of how it goes. If you feel like you want an inside line, you're buying relationships, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, but more importantly, there's some interesting leaks coming out of Binance, and you gotta be a little careful, in my opinion, with how you approach these things, because it could be true. It's easy to doctor texts and stuff like that. It's easy to pretend they came from certain people and they didn't, and so on and so forth. There's a reason generally that text messages don't hold up in court. I'm not an attorney, not legal advice, but anyways, but it doesn't look good. I mean, it kind of sucks. They're more or less, suggesting different plans on how they're building their structures to avoid regulation in the US. I think when these text messages were sourced versus their opinion and approach now, it's probably vastly different. I mean, Binance US obviously has a lot of exposure to US regulators and so on, and they would be incredibly short-sighted to still have that as a guiding principle. So we'll have to see. I mean, pretty much every other major institution is, debilitated right now with like regulatory nonsense, so might as well throw Binance into the mix. Why not?
The other thing that's kind of wild about this is we're seeing regulation from every country, which means a lot of these international firms are getting hit everywhere. We just happen to be more reportive of the American news. I think that Americans are more like in the news. It seems as though we're a little bit more transparent about what's going on with regulation, and we're more transparent about the drama, right? People come forward and talk about the SEC, whereas they're probably getting pushed from other areas too, but it's not quite as.
Absolutely. I think, they're trying to set up their entity in Singapore now, a banking entity, I believe, Binance, among other things. And so, I mean, there's a lot of news that comes globally, but we've talked about this a few times on the stream or on the pod here. I mean, the US, whether we love it or not, is kind of the tail that wags the global dog. I mean, whatever the SEC does, it's really easy for other regulators to then say, oh, well, this is what they're doing, so we're just going to do that. And then they can, find a way to weasel out of any personal accountability for those decisions. So anyways, to make a long story short, I think that's why it's coming out. But there is some other interesting news globally. What else you got?
Well, that's kind of the thing is it seems as though the lobbyists in America are also leading that trend of pushing against your government and against your regulation. One of the big ones today that I thought was interesting is Russia.
Yeah.
There's an organization representing Russia's crypto and blockchain sector. And I don't know, I wouldn't personally urge Vladimir Putin to do anything, but they're feeling ballsy and they went for it. They have told him that if he does not provide some sort of regulation, if he does not make crypto more legal, essentially, they will leave and Russia will be stunted in terms of digital forefront, which seems true. And they won't see crypto pop up there. They won't have new financial technologies. They will fall behind the world order. I mean, they're really playing to his fears. They're doing a good job of fudding Putin, I think. But at the same time, it's kind of an interesting, it must be scary to do that. And they're really pushing back against a lot more, right? Hasn't crypto been wildly outlawed in Russia?
Well, it's kind of been all over the map. Like it's if you look even back to like 2015, 16, 17, it was kind of like, it was almost as common as the China FUD. China bans crypto. Okay. Russia bans crypto. India bans crypto. Oh, just kidding. They've allowed them again. Oh, just kidding. They banned it again. It's used, in my opinion. And again, geopolitics is not the angle of this show, although something that we're both, I think, interested in. But it will be interesting to see kind of what happens here, because Putin generally has managed crypto access based on current events. So in a time where their currency was devaluing quickly, and there could have been a flight to safety at the beginning of the Ukraine war, then all of a sudden crypto is not allowed, and pretty much any Russian connection becomes an OFAC concern. Not quite, but there's a lot of OFAC sanctions on anybody in Russia with any amount of money. So that would cause a lot of challenges, I think, because so many assets in DeFi, or so many protocols are pooled, and so you put those assets in the pool, and then it can taint the asset pool also, which is a big problem. Anyways, the actual kind of not fallout, but the conclusion from this article is somewhat interesting, though, because they were essentially saying, if we don't, if Russia doesn't come out with some sort of regulatory structure, then you're going to see a lot of these entities leave. I mean, if I was a tech company building in Russia, I'd probably leave too. But what did Gensler say about that?
Well, exactly. So what I think is fascinating is that we're just seeing everybody do this. This is everyone's reaction. The people of Germany are like, if you don't make this easier for us, we're out. And as you may know, there are tons of fintech and blockchain startups, especially in Berlin. The people of America are saying the same thing. The people of Russia are like, make it easy, or we're going to take all of our money and we're going to go somewhere else. And Gensler says, I don't believe you.
That's unfortunate, because I can speak to this from a builder's perspective. Like, we're going to go wherever is the most likely to protect our shareholders and business value accrual, period. So, I mean, if one jurisdiction is going to make it very difficult or opaque to understand if you're doing things appropriately, but another jurisdiction has made it clear and you can comfortably operate out of said jurisdiction, I mean, of course we're going to move. It's simple. Most of these businesses are digital businesses anyways. Like, most of them are distributed teams that live, in different areas all over the world. So it's not like we have to move a headquarters. And even if we had to move,
it's not a big deal.
Well, case in point here is I live in Miami, and Citadel, one of the largest TradFi institutions in America, is moving from Chicago to Brickell, and they have leased an entire building, an entire tower, and they're building their own tower for like a few years down the road. That's not small, but they're willing to do it because of the crime and all of these things in Chicago. And so they said, forget this. We're gonna move our headquarters. So I think that to assume that there's going to be too much friction when the push out of a jurisdiction becomes strong enough, businesses will move. It's survival. We have obligations to our clients and our shareholders and our stakeholders. I mean, it's kind of
aside
crazy
from
to
it, I
think.
find it interesting because in various cultures, people treat government differently. So in America, we kind of expect the government to serve us. Like we
Right.
are the client, right? And if
Right.
you're running with that, if you think that, you know, they're here to serve us and customer service and not they're here to big brother us, which like it's a big one. The crypto lobbyists are saying you're trying to impose 90-year-old security laws against us. We are financial innovation. Blockchain is financial innovation. Blockchain finance, digital assets, listen to us, pay attention to us, and help us understand what to do so that we're in compliance, but also understand that things need to be updated and modernized. And Gensler just came forward and said, what you're doing is pathetic. And the next version of evolution will actually come because of AI. And I don't know, I worked retail and food services and 900 other jobs. And usually when I told a customer to go fuck themselves, they weren't that happy with me and they looked for other options. So I don't know if that applies here, but having Gensler say, you know what, we are going to serve somebody, but it's not you, is kind of setting the tone for what regulation is going to look like going forward and setting the tone for what the current SEC investigations with Gemini, Ripple, FTX, Kraken, what that's going to look like.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how this all plays out. I mean, if it was easy to look in the crystal ball and see what regulators were going to do, we'd be a lot more comfortable with the situation. But I think it's a bit of a political hot potato. It's one of those things that no one really wants to take a stand on crypto regulation. And I think part of it is because it's novel, it's very tech focused, and we're talking to a bunch of people that are likely well past their prime in terms of, you know, they're not anywhere close to the early adopters or innovators piece of the bell curve for new technology adoption, for sure. And a lot of them probably can barely use their cell phones. I don't mean to be so negative, but I think there is a fairly significant learning curve. And if I can attest to anything here, our discussions with policymakers, regulators, lawmakers, et cetera, have been one of great interest from their perspective. They're asking a lot of questions and trying to understand it, but it's very clear that they just don't currently. And that is dangerous because not only are we trying to throw this potato around that no one really clearly understands, the people that we really need to make the decisions, Congress, there's not enough people in Congress that meaningfully understand crypto. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this all
I'd
shakes
rather play musical chairs than hot potato.
Yeah, sure.
You get a little bit more experience. You get to try different things out. You know, I say this as a little bit of a segue because although we're saying these people aren't necessarily the early adopters, if you're here and you're listening to this and you're paying attention to this news, you probably are still early in crypto and definitely still early in blockchain, right?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And a new study came out that says despite layoffs, essentially, blockchain dev requirements are soaring. So if you are a dev, if you're trying to find a new career, if you want to be early in the blockchain space, the demand for it has increased by 552% in America alone.
Yeah.
And that isn't necessarily saying digital assets and crypto assets, but that's saying decentralized file management, gaming, all the other utilities that we can see for blockchain, right?
Yeah. Blockchain in general.
Blockchain in general.
Right. The technology in general. I think
that's kind of interesting. I wonder when we talk about the SEC, we talk a lot about crypto and crypto regulation, but they haven't really talked about the other further elements of blockchain regulation, at least not in such big news. I know from the Government Blockchain Association conference last year that in Utah, you can now get married and have your marriage license on the blockchain, right? There are other things that are happening that are government forward thinking, but they aren't necessarily digital assets. And that seems to be the most controversial thing because people are upset about money, right?
Well, yeah, and people make like the problem with crypto is everybody's like overhyped the upside, right? Like you don't often hear people screaming from the rooftops about penny stocks on TSX Venture or something where it's like super highly volatile. Like those are highly regulated industries and whatever, and that's pretty standard. But everybody's always, you know, grabbing a megaphone and talking about. I joked about this, I think yesterday, you know, joking about taking $100, turning it into $1 million, you know, in the next 2 weeks, just do this or buy this NFT or this or that. Like, no wonder people are getting screwed. And you couple that with social media, of course, like I totally understand why regulators are saying, wait a second, like we don't really understand this, but we've got to find a way, because this could get out of hand, as we've seen. If you trust too much in the will of individuals to try to abide by rules that aren't direct, the FTXs of the world happen, and the 3 Arrows of the world happen. And as unfortunate as it is, I mean, that's what leads these discussions going forward. So anyways,
it's funny that you statement, because I was going to save it for Friday, go FUD yourself for the FU Friday, but yesterday you said that you can't turn $100 into $1 million overnight, and this guy did. Check it out on Daily Hodl. It's a scam. He's a hacker. But JD $71 into $1.5 million. So I guess your statement is correct if you want to be a pedant about it, but he didn't turn $100 into $1 million, but he turned less than that into more. So
yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody should start throwing all of their life savings in the shitcoin casino. It would be about as advisable as saying someone won the Powerball jackpot last week, so I'm going to all in the next one, because there's a 1 in whatever billion chance that I might win. All in. I'm going to all in. I'm going to all in that. And that's like guys like this. Again, there are a few people in the space, the Warren Buffetts of the world, or the jump tradings of the world, or these other people that become prolific investors and have a way better than average, beating the market track record. But that is not consistent. That is not the norm. That is not what most people can expect. Now, you can, however, maintain a certain level of success and outpace the market just with proper risk management, a long enough time horizon, paying attention to what's going on, listening to Go FUD Yourself to make sure that you kind of know what's going on, at least superficially. Yeah, I guess we'll see over the next couple of cycles how many people do that. But I suspect, again, in 10 years from now, the people that are still around are not the ones that made $71 into 1.5 million. It's generally the ones that started with 1,000.
Okay, he also this hacker. This hacker is also returning the funds, is not malicious, found it, exploited it, contacted them. I wonder if that's just a really great way to get a job without a resume,
Well, I mean, I don't know if well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if we've talked about this on the pod before, but when you look at like a lot of the hackers that expose, banking institutions or huge data breaches with like government agencies and all this other stuff, often they get hired by NSA, or they get hired by FBI or CIA or all these other entities. That's kind of, they get busted hacking, but they're such savants that they want to hire them to help. I mean, I don't know if we talked about this on the pod. This is where I was going to go with this, but I mean, cleaning money from exploits in crypto, especially now in 2023, is like near impossible. Like, we've built enough systems and there's enough gates before you can get crypto assets back to fiat that it's incredibly difficult to get assets out into the real world where you could spend them. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're going to steal money, you want to be able to use the money. I don't condone stealing money from anybody, of course, but it's become very difficult. And so now there's platforms like Immunify and others. There's many. Immunify is just a partner of ours, where they have kind of the white hat hackers, where there's a percentage of exposed exploitable value that then just gets paid to the hacker, and that percentage is about as good. It's about somewhere between 10 and 15% of exposed funds. That's about what they would end up with if they were to exploit it themselves anyways. And then they have international law enforcement and probably a whole bunch of really unhappy whales who I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of some crypto whales. I'm pretty sure there's less than friendly people involved in the space. So yeah, hopefully we don't see as much of that. That's also not the advised way to make $1 million from 100.
Not financial advice. You do it if you want.
Yeah.
You live your life.
Who knows? Anybody can make it happen. Anybody can make it happen. But yeah, I wanted to talk just quickly about. I know you've talked, or you put the banners up there about the, dev inflows. I mean, it kind of goes with expectation in a sense that there was record amounts of capital raised in 2021 and beginning of 2022. Most of the teams that raised extraordinary amounts of capital are hiring to try to expand and grab as much land during the bear as they possibly can because they have the war chest. So that makes perfect sense to me. I think I've been saying this forever. We're beyond early. I mean, it's a $1 trillion industry at best too, currently. And there's just so much room for other assets to come into the space. We're just at the very, very beginning of, the iterations on technology on blockchain. And I think we're early for sure. Ideally, as time goes on, we'll see shrinking amounts of volatility because hopefully market cap gets bigger and sophistication gets greater, et cetera. But there's a lot of opportunity for people to get involved, either, if you want to participate in these platforms as investors, or if you want to participate as developers or team members. There's tons of opportunity in the space.
It's interesting you say that, because the last thing that I have today is marketplace indicators, super FUD saying Bitcoin's done. It's hit its peak. Silvergate has destroyed it. You are too late to get in.
Yeah, I mean, people click on that shit, and that's the problem. Like, first of all,
I clicked on it. I was really excited about it.
Yeah, come on, Barons. Like, really? I mean, maybe it hit its peak for the last 24 hours. But I mean, you can't meaningfully predict. Anybody that can, I'm happy to be proven otherwise, but you can't meaningfully predict where things are going to go unless you have some sort of incredible inside information or enough assets under your control that you can in fact move the market, both of which we don't have. So, and neither is Barron's, for what it's worth. So I'm interested. This is another one of those pieces that I think got syndicated across the interwebs because it was appealing for people to click. But anyways, yeah, do we actually think that we've peaked and that's it? Now we're just going to go dump to oblivion until, I don't know, the next halving.
Well, it said that for 24 hours. It was stagnant. It was flatlined. It was dead.
Yeah, crypto's done. Yeah, Bitcoin was slow for 24 hours and crypto's done. Fuck it. Technology sucks. Gensler, it's all AI.
Yeah, that's what he said.
There's a lot of fudders in our midst today.
It's a funny hump day, I guess.
It is a funny hump day. And I mean, we got punished for my political incorrectness. The internet kicked you off. So
good. Yeah, well, it kicked me off, not you. So I don't know what that's.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's usually what happens.
You know what? I do actually want to talk. I want to talk not specifically about International Women's Day because I don't care about.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that from Binance, they have 30% of their senior leadership are women, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
And from Storm 2, which is a big recruiting firm, they put together sort of some stats about women in tech and that kind of thing. And in fintech, companies with larger number of women proportionally have higher equity, which I think is kind of cool, or higher return on equity, which is kind of a cool stat. I don't know if it's correlated, or if it's caused. It's correlated, but it's not necessarily caused. Kind of a cool thing. But something that I thought was interesting when reading the head of Binance's quotes about crypto is just be a good leader, just be good at your job, work hard, don't play the tiny violin all the time. And I don't know if this is super appropriate to say, but crypto is the only place that I felt super safe working. I worked in post-secondary education, I worked in booze, I worked in fashion, I worked in 9 different industries because clearly I want to know everything in the world. And last year we went to Avalanche Barcelona. It was the first crypto conference that I went to. And it is the first it is the first conference in my life that I did not get groped, flirted with, harassed, drugged, all kinds of stuff. And I don't need a day for that, but it's kind of an interesting thing to think about all of the women in crypto I know and how all of us feel pretty empowered. We come to work, nobody bugs us, and we do our jobs.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a pretty big proponent of meritocracy. I don't believe in equality of outcome or even the equity argument, affirmative action, all of that stuff. I don't agree with that, as long as there's a very direct strategy for meritocracy. And so I believe, obviously, that it's the best person for the role, not based on some intersectionality or immutable trait that you can't do anything with. I would rather see a funny story. It's a comedian. I can't remember who I was listening to. Was talking about flying an airplane, and he said, like, I want middle-aged white men generally to fly the airplane, unless there's someone else that has the same credentials as those people and the same amount of experience. Then have at it. Doesn't really matter, but it needs to be someone with a certain amount of experience, a certain level of aptitude, and completely irrelevant if they have any of these intersectionality nonsense. And so
the concept of it is more at like the base level. Like, I don't think anyone's going to argue meritocracy at a higher level, but it's giving access to more people, right?
Yeah.
And last International Women's Day, I haven't seen it yet today, but last International Women's Day, quite a few interesting articles came out about women investing more and how more women have invested in crypto and digital assets than ever before, because now they actually have access to money. And that's more so in not North America, but it was kind of cool. Like, that's a whole new industry that we can serve, right? Like a whole new demographic.
Yeah. Coming back to this on the meritocracy piece, it should, based on just proportions of the population, it's obviously not going to be equal, because there are differences between men and women, generally speaking. We don't need to get into that today, but there are differences between men and women. There's a lot of roles that women are naturally more inclined to be successful at. There's a few roles that some men might be more inclined to be, but that doesn't mean that there's not overlap. Anyways, it's nice to see that there's more representation in the space. I think it's great, of course.
The argument there is that it's socialization, right? But I have a point to that, which is when you hired me, JD hired me, everyone. When you hired me, you pointed out that there is a lot of opportunity in the crypto space for women, because there are a lot of roles not being fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
And many of our strongest partners that I talk to regularly are women. And I find that to kind of make up for the natural inclination or the natural bias that women are going to be more emotional, that typically they're way more cutthroat.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of space for women. And, there's just I don't know. There's a difference in personality. And I think there's a dynamic that women bring to any team that makes it stronger, generally speaking. But again, that has to be that's individual basis. Like, look at someone's credentials, look at their experience, look at what they've done. Do they align philosophically with the organization and so on? Frankly, the last thing I think about is whether you're a man or a woman or pink or purple or black or white. Really, it's irrelevant, honestly. It's do you have the same philosophy to fit into the culture that our entities have, and are you good at what you do, and do we think that we'll enjoy working together? I think those are the main criteria, and beyond that, everything else should shake itself out.
Well, I'm sure some people are going to come tell you to go FUD yourself, so enjoy that.
I mean,
do you have a crypto shirt on today?
Oh yeah, I forgot. Shout out to D-Dub. D-Dub, our friends at D-Dub. They are an audit partner. Is that backwards?
Yeah, no, it's good the first time.
Anyways, they're wicked. Partners of ours at Benki, and looking on, working with them on many things. But they have by far the best hoodie merch that was at ETH Denver. By far, it's like super soft, fits perfectly. It's light. It's perfect for Miami hoodies. That's a thing.
I've got my Steak Friends shirt today from Steak Wallet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know what though? It's really itchy.
Uh-oh.
So that's hopefully weird. They have Steak Wallet. Send me a softer t-shirt. But this is from from Avalanche Barcelona, from their steak dinner. Remember that?
Steak dinner. I do remember that.
Yeah. Actually. So they had a mass amount of t-shirts for us all. It was very cool.
That was a good time.
And they stand out, and it's got the friends on it. It's nice.
Yeah. They're now called Omni, which,
I know.
but
Feel a bit vintage. But
yeah, it is. That's
this is my
funny,
retro shirt from 1 year ago.
like way back in the day. That is like an eternity ago. Like I feel like I've aged 10 years in the last 1 year. But anyways, all right.
All right.
One
Go
more
find
thought.
yourself, JD.
One more thought on being polarizing. I mean, at least this way, people can trust that we're giving our actual opinions. I mean, honestly, cancel me. Try to cancel me. I don't give a fuck. And
That's
I'll
nice
maintain-
that, frankly, that we have different opinions, right?
Yeah, but vastly different opinions,
think
you and
that's-
I, on many things.
Well, we do, but I think that's important when it comes to news as well, because we're both looking at these articles and saying, here's my take on it, and we're from very different sides of the political spectrum, right?
Absolutely.
So you know that it's unbiased.
Or biased, but at least balanced.
Really biased.
You know, we're each biased, but to our own preferences. Anyways, all good.
Okay, all right. Go find yourself.
That's all good.
Right here.
Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. Every day, 12:30 Eastern, same place. We will be here with Go Fund Yourself. Make sure that you click that little bell and all that shit. If you're watching on YouTube, click the bell, subscribe, all that nonsense so that you don't miss an episode, because we're going to make your life a lot better. Watch us every day. Your life will be a lot better. I promise. Go Fund Yourself, Kiara. Have a beautiful day. We'll talk soon.